Seems like everything revolves around power. When things go down, everyone goes crazy. You know, it truly is the backbone of what runs the country.
The lineman's main job is to make sure the lights come on whenever you flip that switch.
My dad turns the lights on.
In my eyes and in our children's eyes, he is a hero.
If someone calls and there's power out, we're going. It don't matter if it's 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning, we're there.
I had a best friend in school. His dad was a lineman. People in the community looked at him like, he does something. And that's what I wanted to be.
As a kid, you'd see White River trucks, and you occasionally see the guys up in the bucket, and I just always thought growing up, that would be a cool job to have. I love my job.
I like it because I get to work outside each day, working with heavy equipment, getting to climb poles, and just enjoying the Ozark beauty.
I always wanted to do something with my hands, and line work's something you can do with your hands outdoors.
When Lee Ray first got on with White River, he went every Friday and stopped in the office to ask if they were hiring, until finally they knew him by name. He wanted it bad enough, so it worked.
White River's home. Mom and Dad always had White River Electric. I've got White River Electric. It's just where I grew up.
When David and I were first married, he was a teacher and a coach.
I hated being inside all the time. I look out the window of the classroom and wanted to be outside. I'm not sure they could pay me enough to go back to teaching. I enjoy getting up and coming to work every day.
Well, White River is a good place to work because of the men that I work with.
We probably spend more time with each other than we do with our families at home.
They get really close. They know a lot about each other's family.
The linemen that my dad works with, they all treated me just like a little son to them.
They are a family. Much like our own family here, when he goes to work, I know that he has that family at work too.
The linemen's a brotherhood. Everyone has each other's backs.
When one's down, the other 30, 40, 50 are going to do what they can to pick you back up.
If one ever calls and needing help, every one of us would be there.
I remember Foreman told me once, he said, you know, you marry this job. Line work's a way of life.
My generation, it seems like to me that they don't know what a lineman is. It seems like your older generations, they really do know. But it seems like I have to explain to my friends that I have to be accessible. I gotta, be right there if someone's powered out.
When Tyler decided to go down the road of being a lineman, I didn't know what we were signing up for.
You think, yeah, he's gonna have to leave on some calls and stuff like that, but you can't ever realize how much you're gone.
My oldest, Cale, he thinks, I guess being age 5, he thinks Dad's a superhero anyway. I know that'll pass, but he has seen me at work, and he thinks that's the greatest thing ever.
My daddy goes to work, he turns the lights on and climbs posts.
My daughter has gotten him in I don't know how many pinches by when the lights go out at the ballpark or whatever. She's like, oh, I'll just call my daddy. He'll come. And he always did.
After I figured out exactly what Dad does, it makes you appreciate him more and look up to him more.
We actually found a book that talks about a lineman and what a lineman does, and in the book he's the daddy. Daddy wants to be home to kiss you goodnight, but he knows he must work and get it done right.
My boys, they're proud of what I do. They get excited every time they see the bucket trucks or see the digger trucks. They're excited about that.
He gets in the bucket and goes and he climbs the poles and puts the power back on.
The week we're on call 24/7. You never know when the phone's gonna ring and you gotta go to work.
Could be 2 o'clock in the morning, storming. It could be a nice sunny day at 5 o'clock in the evening that I just got home, getting ready to mow the yard.
Sometimes my daddy gets a phone call. At night, last time he did, and he just got to sleep 2 hours.
It affects our children because he might not have seen them all day, and he comes home and we want to eat dinner and he gets called out.
It always just seems like when I get called, I normally have the barbecue grill running, halfway in between cooking a steak, and then I have to shut the grill off, put my food in the microwave, and then go to work.
Whenever that outage call comes in to dispatch, we're the next call, and we've just got a few minutes to get there and get the power turned back on.
It's important that he goes out in the middle of the night so he can give those people their power back.
When you know the storm's coming in, you don't sleep well if you sleep at all. Every clap of thunder or anything you hear, you automatically think, well, phone's getting ready to ring.
Mindy, my wife, when I get that call at 2 or 3 in the morning, she's not sleeping.
Sometimes I do go to work tired and I'm not the one going out on these calls. Sometimes we're like, another call.
It affects me too when he gets those calls because I'm a teacher and I still have to get up early in the morning.
Used to, I wouldn't sleep until he came back through the door. I would just stay up, watch TV or whatever. Like now he can go out sometimes and I don't even know, I just wake up and he's in bed with me and I'm like, whoa, I didn't hear that.
Being a lineman's family is definitely just a lifestyle.
To be a lineman, you want to like the outdoors. Whenever it's hot, you're out in it. Whenever it's cold, you're out in it. Whenever it's storming, you're out in it. Whenever everybody else is ducking and taking cover, that's whenever you're headed out in it.
It takes a certain person to really go out there and kind of grab your bootstraps and pull them up and go. Not everybody can do it.
In floods, you're dealing with the flood waters.
You find where the outage is and there's a river going 100 miles an hour in front of you that a river has never been there before.
And in the storms, you're dealing with the lightning and the wind.
Rain at nighttime, it's the worst too. Anything you do overhead, having to look up in it.
I do not like the heat. Heat is by far the worst element. You can always put more clothes on in the cold, but you can't always take them off in the hot.
The worst conditions that we work in for me is the winter storms, simply because hot's miserable, but cold hurts.
Besides the weather, fatigue is definitely something you deal with as a lineman.
We get the power back on, you get a couple hours of sleep, but you're back at work at 7 in the morning. You don't get to sleep in, take the morning off. You're back at the job.
When Tyler first became a lineman, it was on my mind constantly of how dangerous it was every day when he would leave.
I think now that we have kids, it does get harder. And I worry about him and worry about him coming home to them.
There's not a time I don't tell him to be careful or have the boys hug him or give him a kiss, whether it's the middle of the night or if it's in the evening.
It's just you're playing with the devil each time. You're right there with life or death. You touch the wrong thing, it could be your life.
It's not just being electrocuted. A pole could roll over on you, equipment breaking, anything could happen.
My dad became a lineman in '74. Just because it's been in your life for 34 years doesn't make it really easier. It probably makes it harder. I've seen a life lost. I've seen a man lose a limb from severe burns, so you know more what can happen. One slip can change their lives.
There is no room for error. You don't get a second chance if you mess up with a hot line at 7,000 volts of electricity. You don't get that second opportunity to reset the truck up if you don't do it the right way and get yourself in a bad position.
You kind of think of them as invincible because they do it every day and it's just what they do. But every once in a while you get shown that they're not.
I do have to take comfort in knowing that the men that he works alongside with are trained and they have went through school and they go through their safety courses.
Every lineman knows what could happen. It's just something that you put in the back of your mind and you just watch each other's backs.
You got to trust all the other linemen with you because your life's literally in their hands. You got to trust your brothers out there.
We always are watching and making sure everything's being safe. We want them to go home to their family at the end of the day.
I always say a little prayer for him because I worry. And I pray for his guys that they all come home safely because they have to come home. There's no option for him not to come home.
Our faith keeps us strong. We know when it's all said and done, I'm going to be back home and we're going to enjoy each other's time.
There are times whenever it's not the weather here, it's the weather in other areas of the United States that he has to go.
In the co-op world, the co-ops all take care of each other.
I think a lot of times the boys are shocked by the devastation that they see.
He's worked 36 hours straight in the same wet clothes, being cold.
One time he was standing in snow up to his waist, and I thought, how in the world is he working in that? Those are rough conditions.
I know sometimes you wouldn't hear from him for 48 hours because he would be so busy. And that's hard for the person at home.
And it is difficult, when you've got little kids and they don't understand how long a week is or 2 weeks and they miss their dad.
All storm work is more dangerous than your day-to-day work. Mother Nature throws all this stuff at you and you've got it to deal with along with your normal work.
Anytime you work a storm away from here, you're always got to be on your toes. We have our procedures in place and we know what we're doing is safe. A lot of places you work, it's not like that.
They're working with people that they don't know, for one thing, and they're working lines that they don't know. And they're trusting somebody that they just met 15 minutes ago with their life, basically.
I know when he had to leave for a hurricane a few years back, we got up early with him, and we took a picture with him. I didn't think he was not going to come back to us, but you never know.
I think it's rewarding when you go on a storm, you get down there and you see just total devastation. When you leave, you have the satisfaction of knowing that I put that back up. And I think it makes them feel really good because they help just thousands of people.
This summer I got the opportunity to go down and work in Haiti. Our mission over in Haiti was to help start their first rural co-op in Couteau.
First trip to work.
Working in Haiti was a little bit dangerous, and because their equipment was older, they didn't get it tested like we get all of our stuff tested, so you didn't know how stuff was going to work proper. We worked for 3 weeks over there in Haiti, and it's still work in progress. White River is sending another group of volunteers down to Haiti, and hopefully they'll get to turn the lights on where everyone can have a reliable electricity. It's important for American co-ops to help other countries. The impact that I made down there was pretty cool because knowing that I helped people get power, helping the community out.
The linemen have many sacrifices that, you know, that you don't see. They are missing out on things with their kids. They're missing out on things with their wives. There's many things that they would rather be doing than getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning and going to fix a breaker.
We always had to plan everything around, say, his call week. That was always come first in a way.
The hardest part is probably the walking out on your life. That's the hardest part. It's that looking at the boy whenever you leave their birthday party. That's what's tough.
I always feel guilty when I leave one of the kids' activities for something. Nothing I love more than watching my kids.
Sometimes Dad has to leave because I want to play with him.
Work does call you away from life. To me, that's the hardest part. It's not the work, it's not the physical work. It's you're missing your boys growing up.
He's been called out on Thanksgiving, I think, more than once. You know, if you've got supper fixing to be served, you're kind of like, oh, man.
I had to walk out Christmas morning. That was a tough one.
I get the privilege of teaching Sunday school, and I have been called out before Sunday school and have to just leave. I hate to do that.
I coach Easton in football and baseball, and yes, there's been many times where the phone rings and you look for somebody and say, hey, I'm out of here.
There was one time I was catching and a kid stole the third and I threw him out and my dad missed it.
He's missed softball games, basketball games, and volleyball games, and then holidays like Christmas and Thanksgiving. It's a little upsetting, but I mean, I know he's helping people, so it's okay.
I know my dad, he wasn't there for everything, but whenever he was gone, he was out helping everybody and getting everybody back to where they needed to be.
Even though he has to work a lot, he's still around for us, and he's always there to help us with everything and coach us, be a dad.
There's going to be things you walk out of. There's going to be things you miss. And make sure that your family can support that, because that's what it takes.
It's just a way of life. You're thankful for the job, so it's not really a sacrifice.
When I grow up, I want to do what my dad does because I want to turn people's power back on.
Jace always talks about how he wants to be a lineman. That makes you proud. I mean, it makes you proud knowing that your boys want to grow up and do what you do.
I'd be proud to see one of my boys be a lineman someday because I know what it takes. I would know that they've made a tough little man.
I plan on being a lineman just like my dad, following his footsteps. I made that decision when I was real young.
Our son Drake has always thought of Lee Ray as his hero. Whenever he was about 3 years old, they had a preschool career day.
I dressed up as Dad's little lineman. I'm going through Missouri Valley apprenticeship program right now. I'm just in my first 2,000 hours, but I'm building Highline up in Columbia, Missouri. When I finish my 7,000 hours, I'll top out as a journeyman lineman.
It makes me very proud to see Drake following Lee Ray's footsteps. It's really nice to watch him, Lee Ray, teach him how to do stuff. You don't get a word in edgewise at our house unless you can speak lineman.
I'd really like to see Drake working at a co-op one of these days. The co-op world's been awful good to me, and I think it'd be awful good to Drake.
I'd like to work for a co-op just like my dad did. They treated my dad just like gold.
My biggest concern with Drake deciding to do line work as a career is him getting hurt. And as a father, you can't help but think about that thing.
I always worry about Leray when he goes out on storms, but now I have to worry about Drake also. So every time a storm rolls through, whether it's north or south, I always say a little prayer to bring them both home safely.
I'm very proud that Drake decided to follow me and do line work. It's something that he'll be proud of for the rest of his life.
I think nowadays electricity is taken for granted. You just think that, well, you've got a house that's got power run to it, that I turn the switch on, that it automatically comes on. It takes people to keep that light going. It takes people to do it, and it takes linemen to do it.
The satisfying part of the job to me is when it's done, looking down the right-of-way and seeing the poles you just built, seeing the power lights come onto the new house, or turning the lights back on to a whole neighborhood when it's been out. You can just see them light up down the road.
You come back through and there's that little kid waving in the window, you know, that's priceless.
It's hard work and it's tough work, but it's always good knowing that you're going to get someone turned back on.
It is good to see the member's face, to see him smile, to get that handshake, because to me that's all worth it. You know, I'm working for them.
I've had them come out on the porches and clap. I've had them throwing fireworks off. That's why we do what we do.
You don't think about when you get home why your lights are on, you just know that they're on. And I think a lot of people just don't really understand all the hardship and the sacrifice that these boys have to make that happen. They have families, they have homes, and they sacrifice a lot whenever the power goes out.
The work that they do out there is more than just a paycheck to them. It is going out and doing something for others.
I'm proud of my dad because he helps other people with their power and works really hard.
And he puts others before himself.
I do think the kids are proud of me. They see me come home from work exhausted, tired, hot and dirty. They know that we put a hard day's work in.
I'm proud of him because he takes his job seriously, and I know he's very good at it. He likes to help people. We might be having our own Thanksgiving dinner, but they're having one too, and so he wants to make sure that he does that for them, and our boys can see that. I think it's a good role model.
Every morning on the way into work, I always pray and just thank God for my job, because I do love my job. I think God understood that for Rob to have a job, he's going to have something challenge him, and this is the job for me, and that's why I love what I do.
My daddy's job is important because he has to help people and put the power back on.
I'm proud to be a lineman because not everyone can do what we do, and I feel like it's a job that makes a difference.